Tyler Daly, I'm glad to have you for what feels like probably the 13th, 14th, or 15th time on this podcast. And I know we'll start off here with a nice little drink. I know you're a couple hands deep in some Tito's, but have a little drink to fatherhood here.
Cheers.
Oh, I tasted college. So Tyler, what is going on in your world of fatherhood, parenthood, dadhood, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so like I was telling you, Emma's giving me a time tonight, so apologize to the listeners in advance if I have to step away a time or two, but things are good. She overall has been sleeping pretty well, which is, with a newborn, is probably about the best thing that you could wish for. Mom's good. Works pretty good. I don't know. Do you want me to dive right into everything that's going on at the house? Are we going to get there? Or?
Oh, we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it could be broad strokes here, and then we'll kind of just
I don't
break off in each of these things.
I don't want
to
spill all the beans before it's I don't want to come too early.
I understand. Hey, that's how fatherhood started for us. All right.
Exactly.
We're not going to end it that way.
Yeah.
So so you said everybody's doing good. I know you mentioned work. How's the with the schedule at home? Is that messing with the work at all, in the sense of, I know you said a lot of stuff you can still do at home, but you still have to get out, obviously, doing some of what you do.
Yeah, it's been okay for now. With Megan, fortunately, with her job, she gets a pretty generous maternity leave and everything. So she's not even to her 12 weeks yet. I think that ends here mid-February, and then that's from FMLA, and then she gets another 8 weeks from Disney for child bonding time, they call it. So she doesn't have to go back to work, I don't think, until, I want to say it's early April.
That's awesome.
So it's been good from that perspective because we haven't had to worry about childcare or anything yet. Now, she will be working remotely when she does go back, so still not exactly a worst case scenario where, we're immediately both leaving the house all the time and having to line up full-time childcare. But it'll be harder on her, when she actually has some work responsibilities that she has to balance with the kids. So, but for right now, it's been good. Been able to get out and, still move some equipment, and it's worked out okay because the weather's been kind of suspect down here in Charlotte, very wet. So that affects, as you can imagine, affects construction pretty heavily. So things have been a little slower to start the year, which has been a nice transition into fatherhood in 2022. So
nice. And did you ever think? I kind of think of college us versus fatherhood us, talking about 401ks and FMLAs. I don't think those are things we ever even thought we need to know about. 401k is probably maybe yes, but FMLA was an acronym I was not familiar with until that fatherhood life.
No. And I was actually reflecting on this, thinking about it a little earlier, is just that I found that a little bit off topic, but it forks off this road, is I feel like I relate to my sisters now on such a whole different level because they were always talking about these things. And, little brother, 7 years behind my oldest, 4 years behind my middle sister. And both of them Leah now has 4 kids. Erica has 3. And so, sure, FMLA and, they're going through all this stuff. And, I understand from a logical perspective, but I didn't live it. So I don't, never really knew. And now it's just, it's kind of like you and I in our text message. I feel like when you're talking to another parent, it just, you start to just get things that you knew they were always talking about.
Yeah.
And again, logically, it makes sense. But once you are living it, it's just a lot different. So, no, if you would have told college me that I would know all this stuff, and that was so far in the distance, I never would have guessed.
Like, can you shotgun an FMLA? How does that work?
Yeah, FMLA, is that like Was that like a club or something, or?
Well, no, and kind of like what you're talking about of just wanting to get into was, I think, some house stuff, some house projects possibly, and interested to hear some of those things you were working on.
Yeah, so the in-laws were here last weekend. They're super, as you can imagine. You've lived it. I believe Finn was your in-laws' first grandson or grandchild too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you know how
first on
is.
both sides. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you actually got double whammy. With Bev and Bill, this is old hat. This is Emma was number 7. Lucy was born a couple weeks after. So they have eight grandkids now. I mean, obviously, they're still tickled to death. But anyway, in-laws, it's a whole different level because it's, Emma's their first grandchild. So they've been up a few times now. They love her, to pieces. And my father-in-law is pretty handy. So I kind of admittedly probably abused that privilege a little bit. And it's not so much as I am exploiting his labor and his talent as I feel like I'm, what's the word?
Celebrating
and also like siphoning because, he's just
that verb way better.
because he's got so much just knowledge and such he's an engineer. So, your dad's an engineer.
Gotcha.
You took some engineering courses. I mean, you understand like that mindset. And so he enjoys this stuff. Like, we put this ceiling fan in here, a ceiling fan out in our loft that we call it. And then that kind of spun out of control because the other project, if I can get a little semi-long-winded here on you, is we were going to fix the leaking dishwasher. Come to find out that the leak under the dishwasher has caused a significant amount of water damage underneath our kitchen cabinets to the point that we have now involved a insurance company that I will not name, but we have some contractors coming to the house on Tuesday to probably rip out about half of our kitchen.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so
are you talking about like cabinets and all that sort of stuff? Like
cabinets,
just a part of your kitchen?
The first step is probably, they're gonna blast out the toe kick, they call it. It's a new term. I didn't know that, so I'm not that cool.
It's a soccer term, right?
Yeah. So apparently that's the little, bottom section of your cabinet. So they're going to take that out, see how extensive any potential mold is. But we noticed like our cabinets are swelling. And this is all stuff that we uncovered after, because we just hadn't noticed it. Your eyes don't go down there a whole lot. And kind of as we started to peel back, the curtain, so to speak. We have a lot going on down there. So,
oh boy,
yeah, going without a sink, with the amount of dishes, like bottle washing and stuff that I feel like we're doing these days. It's a little bit of a scary hill that we're about to climb, but it's kind of like the contractor said when he came out to do the estimate, is just, especially having a newborn, there's a potential for mold back there. And we definitely don't want her breathing that in. So that's priority number one. But the good news is insurance is covering basically everything. We just have to pay our deductible. So
nice.
It's going to be a pretty hefty bill. So we're glad that we're not going to be on the hook for it.
Is that just a general like homeowners insurance type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, siphoning off the father-in-law, he was like, we went through something like this. You should probably call your homeowner's insurance and see if this is covered. And
never hurts to ask.
Enough. In these days with COVID, they just basically FaceTimed us, and I walked them through the kitchen, showed them the damage and everything. And next thing you know, they're like, hey, you're approved to get whatever work done that ServPro wants to do. So they're
ServPro, I know them.
Yeah, the mitigation specialist. So
that's right. Well, on the plus side, though, so does that mean? I guess the thought is it's replacing whatever or fixing whatever is damaged, and then replacing the cabinets or whatever was there. Is the thought that you somewhat get a kitchen remodel on accident, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we were kind of like, for a brief moment, we were kind of thinking, hey, let's parlay this into like a full kitchen remodel.
100%.
But I think it depends on how much they truly have to tear apart. Not to get too far into the nitty gritty, but the plan is essentially they're going to come in and cut. We have granite countertops, and they're going to cut along the caulk at the back and along the top of the cabinets, and hopefully just lift that whole piece up and take it out so that it can be reinstalled. If for whatever reason it breaks or something while they're doing that, it might be hard to match granite countertops. So we might just have them, we might buy that portion to replace on their dime and then replace the rest on our own. So I'm personally hoping that we don't have to go that route, but yeah, it was discussed, at least the full kitchen redo. So
throw out some banana peels and let these guys break this granite, and then you're going to get yourself a brand new kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have a pretty good sized kitchen too, so that's no small feat, certainly, if you had to bear the cost of, I guess, the remainder of it. But
yeah, I'm just hoping that, because worst case scenario is that that the moisture crept back into the into the drywall, and then we're talking some real heavy stuff where they're cutting sections of drywall out, and I know that I didn't do anything, but you and I both know that I will be blamed for not having a kitchen in our house by my wife.
I would say, how dare you, is what the first thing I would say. Yeah,
exactly. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say that maybe that means some more time with the in-laws, and then you get to stay in the house by yourself. I don't know exactly how that works out, but I guess someone has to weather the storm. But ultimately, it is remediated, and then it's all figured out. So I guess in the end, I guess that works out. And I guess, was there any other stuff with the house that you ended up doing? I know you said some ceiling fans that flipped into what could possibly be a kitchen remodel. Any other like less invasive shit that was just nice to do, nice to get like knock out?
No, I think honestly the ceiling fan thing, it sounds simple, but I don't know what it is about me, but I guess I'm just a really big fan of ceiling fans.
I want to know that you wrote that down to say that.
I didn't, but I realized as I was saying it, I don't know if it's irony or whatever, but when we bought this house 3 years ago,
has it been 3 years? Wow.
Yeah. It's closed on it in January of 2019. So sure enough, here we are in 2022. Doesn't feel like that long ago, but the only room upstairs that had a ceiling fan was the master bedroom. And I don't know if you remember those domed lights that every college apartment ever has.
Oh yeah.
Where it's just, that silver ring and then that glassy, off-white dome covering the light bulbs.
With the nipple?
All the other rooms had that. And when we bought the house, I said to Megan, like, either right before we closed on it or shortly thereafter, I said, whether it's, in the next 2 or 3 years or before, right before we sell it, whatever it is, I'm going to put a ceiling fan in every single one of these rooms upstairs.
No brainer.
The loft, office, and, technically this is these 3 rooms right here are bedrooms. So we just use this one as an office. But it was the last 2 rooms that needed a ceiling fan. So it was a nice little box to check. Like 3 years ago, I stated this was going to happen, and I went out and I did it. And also, feels very good I feel like now moving forward, I unequivocally know how to install a ceiling fan by myself. And I definitely didn't know how to do that before. So shout out Ronald White.
Rob White?
Yeah.
Wait, not that one. Your in-law, not the comedian. Although maybe he's a funny dude. I don't know.
I forgot about that Ron White. Very different Ron Whites.
Different guy.
Oh.
Yeah. Last time I heard about him, he was on Rogan, I think, talking about like psychedelics and stuff. So I don't know if that's the same guy we're talking about now.
I have seen this Ronald White, my father-in-law, take one sip of alcohol in the 6 years that I have been in a relationship with his daughter. And it was because he had a small cold coming on, and he keeps a small, I don't even think it's a fifth. I think it's like whatever the next size down of liquor is of Jack Daniels in like the back of their pantry. And I mean, I'm not kidding you, this bottle had dust on it when he got it out. And he sprinkled a little bit of Jack Daniels in the cup, squirted a little bit of lemon juice, and I want to say like some Diet Coke or something. And he was like, that's his down south cold remedy. So
that is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine that he actually has a medicine cabinet and it just has the ingredients that you just explained, and that's it. That's all you need right there.
Yeah. Doesn't curse. He's a Southern Baptist deacon. I've never seen him raise his voice or anything. I hope to never see him raise his voice. Very calm, very even-keeled guy. But, he's a great man and has taught me a lot. So I appreciate the help around the house and everything. So,
hey, props to RW. And I will say, I guess this is the third house we've owned, although I always lose track. We've lived in 8 or 9 different places since Marley and I have met.
That's crazy.
So thankfully, in the first couple of ones, we didn't do anything to them because we rented them, and there's no at all monetary benefit. Although one, we actually repainted a good amount of it, and the guy was just like, okay, if you want to do that, that's fine, because that means I don't have to do it, and I don't have to pay for it. And he ended up repaying for the paint, but not the labor and possible brain cells I lost for repainting a half bath. But yeah, like going through this house that we're currently in, we've gradually gotten bigger and bigger houses in terms of the first one we got was we found out Marley was pregnant, and we were already going through the process of trying to buy a house, but then we found out she was pregnant. We're like, all right, we really need a house now though. So we kind of settled for a small house in the right area, and we're incrementally kind of going up and up in terms of the one we're in now is a great area right near. This means nothing to anyone outside of Roanoke, but near Cave Spring High School. So good area, good schools and all that. And yeah, we've replaced, it's mostly my dad and I, but then after the first day, I just had to do all the rest of it. All the ceiling fans are the same. Like you go to Lowe's and buy 8 ceiling fans because they might get discontinued by the time you want to replace other ones down the road.
Right.
So we just bought a shitload of ceiling fans and put them all in. Different all the light fixtures on the main level, including like a little like kitchen, like a tube light, are all new. And I don't mean like super fancy, just not the old like brass looking ones that were before. So it is no small task to have to go through and do all that stuff. But once you learn it, it's usually pretty simple. Like I've learned that apparently some people don't understand how to wire things, but it's definitely, once you learn that, it's a good skill to have. Are there any more, you want to call them home projects or kind of differences in terms of, I think the last time we spoke on the pod at least was probably about a month-ish ago, maybe a little bit more than that. Anything in terms of like crazy schedule changes for Emma or anything wildly different in terms of what you guys are doing?
No, I don't think so really. But last week she gave us the after her 2-month checkup, she slept through the night for the first time. So she at least knows how to do it. Now she hasn't stuck to it, but I feel like just maybe buried somewhere back there in the subconscious. Hopefully that's something that she can access in the future. Cause I think it was because she got, whatever, second Hep B shot and, some other vaccinations and stuff. So she was just wiped. But she slept from like 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Never made a peep or anything. So
awesome.
But yeah, staying pretty consistent with the schedule and stuff, as best as we can. So overall, she's been a pretty easy baby. Gonna trick us into having another one for sure, I think.
There you go. Is the logic you're gonna go until you get a boy, or you don't put that in the universe?
It depends on who you ask.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So if you ask me, yes.
Yeah.
If you ask Megan, it's 2 and done.
Got it.
But
okay.
things happen, man. I mean, look at Leah. You know, they thought they were done after 3, and then fourth. Lucy born a couple weeks ago. So life comes at you fast. But I think you can 100% bet that if we have a boy, I will be consulting you for vasectomy referrals. And
oh, I got a guy. He's done some nut work in the Roanoke area, so you're good to go on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I might. I said I would do it if we had a boy. My only stipulation is that I want to do it right before March Madness, which I realize is a super popular time. So if we have to wait a year or whatever, we're just gonna have to wait a year, because that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So I want to sit at home, whatever rig I gotta have on to have the huevos nice and comfortable, and I want to sit there and I don't know. Can you drink beer after a vasectomy? Are you on too many painkillers or?
Not so much. I think it's. I treated it basically the same as my when I got wisdom teeth out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they give. Well, for wisdom teeth, they actually gave you pain medication. That was pretty good. For that, I think it was more, since it's it's outpatient. It's nothing too crazy. It wasn't them giving you the same level of that wisdom teeth, saying, "Oh, here's a bottle. Here's 30 of these. You'll be okay." It was more of I think it was a very low dosage of something. And it was saying, like, if you need these, you can, but I probably could have gotten a refill, but
So I'm going to want to drink is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, no question. I got mine within a week before. No, was that right? I had something done before Halloween. I ended up having to go to a family wedding, and I danced a good amount. I'm pretty sure the Dougie was popular at the time. So I had a surgery at the time, and I Dougied with some business going on down there, so that was fun.
Damn, look at you.
Yeah, it was
hurt.
It was regrettable for sure. I wanted to AB it and just kind of run right out of there, but I couldn't do it. But definitely, I'll give you some referrals, some pointers, if you will. But it's a great time, especially if you plan it out based on what you want to be able to watch on TV. That makes it way better. It's much easier.
Hold on one second. I need to find my dog.
Uh-oh.
She may or may not have tried to pull a used condom out of the trash can earlier today. So,
but I mean, on a serious note, let's talk coaches now. And I know that coaches can kind of lead into, this is the coaching carousel going on right now. We have, if I have it followed correctly, so this is Friday, January 28th. I'm looking at my computer right now, and the most recent signing, I believe, was Brian Dable for the Giants. So just to kind of cover our bases of if something happens during the weekend or Monday or Tuesday, we take zero credit for missing that because it hadn't happened yet. But in terms of talking about some of the coaching positions that have been filled, and just in terms of talking about those, of the implications of players for Dynasty's sake, the Broncos, Bears, and Giants have someone filled, with the Broncos hiring Nathaniel Hackett, the Bears hiring Matt Eberflus, cool name, and the Giants hiring, like I said, Brian Dable. Did any of those kind of jump out to you in the sense of it was a good hire because of maybe their track record? It was a terrible hire because of what it means, maybe to the implication of what it affects for an offensive dynasty players. So it's Broncos, Bears, and Giants. That would be teams in a lot of different spots, but I mean, they're all kind of up and coming and want to kind of right the ship. So, and any of those teams that kind of jump out at you for coaches or players?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably low hanging fruit, but off the hip, I think Nathaniel Hackett is the most interesting one, obviously because of the Aaron Rodgers narrative. We kind of, I can't remember if it was Schefter or Rappaport, but one of the big NFL beat guys on draft night last year had tweeted that there was some traction about Rodgers to Denver, and it really never came to fruition. So to see the Packers offensive coordinator, take the job in Denver, that one's got my eye, because we saw Peyton Manning take that path. And you and I both know, anybody in the fantasy football community knows, I think, that it feels like that Broncos offense is like fit to blow. I know that Jerry Jeudy was out a lot this year. I think that was mostly like a high ankle sprain, so he should be good to go next year. It's not like an ACL or an Achilles or something that could linger. So you look at like, even down to KJ Hamler, but Cortland Sutton, it depends on cap situation and everything, what receivers are going to have that shake out. But I mean, Noah Fant, and then having a young stud running back like Javonte Williams. And it looked like, I mean, I was a little bit surprised at how good Melvin Gordon was this year. So just a lot of offensive weaponry that, honestly, if you were to plug Aaron Rodgers into that with the history of strong defenses that Denver has, you got to think that you have an inside track to like the AFC Championship game. A cold weather quarterback. I mean, I could go on with all the reasons that it just seems like it makes sense. So I think Nathaniel Hackett, that one, I know they've already come out and said, like, I can't remember who it was within the Broncos organization that said, like, oh yeah, this hire has nothing to do with pursuing Aaron Rodgers. Like, bullshit. Like, we know what you're doing. So
yeah, don't worry about tampering or anything. We know you want him. Like, even if that wasn't the plan, and it's like we're not banking on you getting Aaron Rodgers, they'd be stupid to not at least attempt to do it, and then say, well, we have Nathaniel Hackett though, and I think you like him. You might as well come over. And I mean, if I remember correctly, they do have a decent amount of draft capital, and if they had to trade one of those couple of firsts or whatever picks, plus, as much as I'd want to see Jeudy stay, I know they already resigned Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Hamler's coming back from an injury. So, I mean, if they had to trade Jeudy and a couple of good picks to get Rodgers, and he actually was committing to staying a couple of years, that wouldn't be the craziest thing. I mean, the rest of that team is stout. Like, their defense is good. Now they got Surtain from, is it Bama? I think he was a rookie last year. I mean, they have a very good defense, and otherwise, I think they're ready to go. I mean, they're a quarterback away. No offense to Teddy Bridgewater, possibly all offense, because as a Panthers fan, it wasn't great. But
Drew Lock.
Yeah, I know the fans were clamoring for him to step in instead of Bridgewater, but I really don't think either of those was a winning situation. But yeah, it's interesting to see what happens with that. And I know my family being a group of Giants fans, I'm not wildly optimistic about how that goes in terms of, is Daniel Jones the guy? Is Saquon Barkley? I know he's not incredibly old, but I think he's coming into the last year of his rookie deal. And I mean, with Brian Dable coming in, and I know Joe, I think it's pronounced Sean, but it looks like Schoen for GM, two guys out of Buffalo, which, I mean, Sean McDermott going from Carolina as the DC over to Buffalo, and then them building just one hell of a team, organization, really. I think they're just trying to recreate that in New York with the Giants. And I mean, they could very well do that. I don't know. But the O-line is horseshit and the defense is decent. But I mean, that division is not great, and it hasn't been really that great consistently for a number of years. So, I mean, it could be, this could turn it around with a good draft, a number of free agents coming in there. But if there's no other ones of those three teams you want to talk about, we can jump to the vacancies, because there's probably 6 more vacancies we could talk about for teams here.
Yeah, real quick, you just piqued my interest on the Daniel Jones thing. I always, admittedly, probably both to a fault. Sometimes it can make me right, sometimes it can make me wrong, but I base a lot of my takes on quarterbacks around games that they play against Virginia Tech. So on the positive side of Daniel Jones, things that I like about college quarterbacks going into the pros that Daniel Jones checks the boxes for. I typically actually like quarterbacks who don't come from elite programs. I know that sounds counterintuitive probably to a lot of people, but you don't, if you look at the starting quarterbacks across the league, you don't see Alabama and Clemson quarterbacks and Georgia quarterbacks and, insert whatever, Ohio State quarterbacks across the board. It's actually quite contrary. I mean, you see the studs come from a lot of times like smaller programs or not the top tier. So Daniel Jones checks that box. He didn't play behind a great offensive line at Duke, but and he always played well in college whenever they played Virginia Tech. But I'll just say that I'm not sold that he's the right guy in the wrong situation, but I would not be surprised if Daniel Jones blows back up under a better system. I mean, the Giants have, dating back to when they last won the Super Bowl, I think in 2011. When you talk about guys like Hakeem Nicks and Plaxico Burress and some of those Mario Manningham, some of those receivers that they have, the pieces on this team, the Giants as they're currently constructed, remind me a lot of that team on the offensive side of the ball. When you had Tiki Barber, you got Saquon Barkley now, and you got Sterling Shepard, and I'm totally blanking. As soon as I started talking, I blanked on the rest of the wide receivers. But
hey, we got
Kenny
Darius Slayton, Kenny Galladay. Oh yeah,
Darius Slayton, Kenny Galladay. And even down to Evan Ingram. There are playmakers there. It just, for whatever reason, didn't seem like a good staff situation. So I would not be surprised to see a big Danny Dimes bounce back.
Oh yeah, and it kind of seemed like I know I don't watch enough college football to be too knowledgeable about it. Although you're talking about when they played against Virginia Tech, which is the only team I'm going to consistently follow in college. But it does seem as though it was kind of weird in his first season, and it got a little bit better, but not too much, that the amount of fumbles that he had, which was kind of an odd turnover for a quarterback to have as a big problem. And I think even as he improved that, the interceptions didn't get too much better. But I'm kind of hoping it was more of just him trying to play hero ball because he felt like the O-line was terrible and he didn't know what to do with the offense. I never really understood the Joe Brady hire, to be completely honest, because as I remember, I don't really care what tree he came from in the sense of if it was from the Belichick tree. He may have interviewed incredibly well, which I guess is how he got the job. I thought he was the wide receivers coach for the Patriots, which, at least coming off of the season when he was hired, I don't know how they earned him any sort of promotion by any team. And it really didn't seem like the team got behind him in the sense of, even when you look at the Detroit Lions, if you look at the talent or deficiency of that talent on that offense, they're still getting behind that coach. And I mean, they've lost a number of close games. Like if a couple of those kind of 50-50 games would have went the other way,
right,
that season would look much different. And that's with just a deficiency of talent. So on a team like the Giants, certainly on the offensive side, not a great O-line, but they do have just a number of weapons. So you'd have to think that it's just there wasn't a big buy-in by the team. I mean, Galladay seems like he just got paid and just stopped trying, to be honest. But I'm really hoping that, Jones can turn it around and in a better system, hopefully. And Dable doing what he did with Josh Allen in Buffalo. I'm not by any means trying to compare the two between Daniel Jones and Josh Allen, but
do it.
I can't and I won't. I can't and I won't. But yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, he doesn't seem like he rocks the boat. It almost seems like they tried to say, all right, let's get a more athletic but same personality as Eli Manning. And that kind of seems like that's what they got. But it has to actually turn into something real in terms of production and consistency. So a healthy Daniel Jones and a Daniel Jones that is not turning the ball over as much as he is could be something real. But I guess we'll see how that goes.
Do you remember, did the Giants trade up to get that pick?
I thought they did.
I feel like they did.
I'm pretty sure.
I will say, in hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, trading up for Daniel Jones that's one of the, I don't know if you follow old takes exposed on any of these, on your preferred social media outlet, but trading up for Daniel Jones that's reprehensible. I mean, I don't know where the Giants were picking that year, but I guarantee ACC Duke quarterback Daniel Jones would have fallen to them. So if it doesn't work out, they get what they deserve, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way about the Trubisky pick, but who am I to say? Yeah. But in terms of the vacancies that are currently there, so we've got the Saints, because Sean Payton just realized the cap is absolutely fucked and the team's terrible. The Jaguars, Urban Meyer was feeling up some 30-year-old, and his wife wasn't super psyched about it. Vikings, honestly, I assumed Zimmer was going to be fired well before now, but I guess they kind of did well enough to where he wasn't, but I guess they'll figure that out. And Dolphins, Texans, and Raiders. Dolphins, I don't really understand the Brian Flores fired because, I mean, he ended on a 6 or 8 game winning streak. I don't remember what the number was, but that makes no sense to me at all. Texans David Culley, there's no way he was going to make it beyond the season. And the people in an uproar is very confusing to me. He seemed like the nice guy in the room that people liked, that they were, regardless of rough record, going to fire. And that's exactly what they did. And Raiders, Gruden, it was funny reading in an article saying he resigned. He technically did, but I don't exactly think that's how that kind of went down. Right. But regardless, there's a number of, it's a wide-ranging list in terms of what a coach coming into each of these teams, which one is maybe most attractive in terms of divisional competition, level of talent on the team, what the cap room looks like, I guess maybe what coaching staff they could assemble. So is there any of those that, I know some of these are more recent that happened certainly with Sean Payton. Are there any of those that kind of stick out in terms of maybe the best available, the albatross, you don't want to look at that one kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I'm right there, I think, in lockstep with you that the Brian Flores firing didn't make sense to me. It sounded like maybe there was some stuff going on in the locker room. At least it seems like what management and ownership cited. But yeah, you're right. I think they won 7 of their last 8 or something like that. I know they lost to the Titans in week. Shoot, how many weeks are there now? They're 18 weeks. So I think they lost to the Titans in week 17, beat the Pats in week 18. Or they did beat the Pats, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was with, Tua being hurt much of the year. And then patchwork in the quarterback, with Jacoby Brissett. And so I think one of those other vacancies will snatch him up. And I now think that's a really good hire. I thought, years ago when the Dolphins hired him, that was a little bit strange. But I think he's proven his mettle a little bit. But the other one I have a take on, the Houston Texans are just a freaking dumpster fire, and they're going to hire somebody who is like way below NFL coaching par. Like, I don't know who they'll reach for, but who wants to go to that franchise right now? They sort of are in limbo with Deshaun Watson. It seems like the best case scenario for both parties is to just get him out of there. So there's no franchise quarterback. They've traded away like a tremendous amount of draft capital because their GM has, I don't know, it's just like a poor Daniel Snyder. Shout out our Redskins listeners, Washington football team listeners. But the Texans are just like off. It just, I don't know. Off the hip, I don't know exactly what their draft situation is, how many picks they have left, but at least perception-wise, I feel like they don't have much there, and that just seems like such a horrible job to walk into. Like, publicly, they have a bad image, and it just that they're going to end up hiring somebody that's like super, super underwhelming.
That's funny you say that, because obviously, as the current Dynasty owner of Davis Mills till I die, first of all, but I did see that I think Josh McCown, the journeyman quarterback, but I think well-respected guy, had got a second interview.
Yeah.
So between that, I think there's a couple of different coordinators from different teams. I think I want to say there's somebody with the Niners as a coordinator. They got a look. Somebody, the OC from the Rams, I think he's got a look from a couple of different teams, including the Texans. But I'm pretty concerned that it actually is probably going to be Josh McCown. And it's kind of just like, oh, well, people seem to like him, and he made it to different teams and didn't seem to piss anyone off. So that should get him a head coaching job. I don't know that that's really the case. That seems more like the logic of like, he should go back to his hometown and be the head coach of his high school team that he played for. That makes more sense to me. But I do kind of see what you're saying in terms of, I could see it being something like that where they're like, let's give McCown the shot. He's a good dude, and we're not that good anyway. So let's just kind of bring him in.
This is what I would do if I was the Houston Texans right now.
Yeah.
We're talking Josh McCown, pivot. Who's the best journeyman quarterback out there?
Are you going to say Fitzpatrick right now?
Go hire Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's played for a third of the league. He knows these organizations in and out.
Yeah.
And he's got the Ivy League pedigree. Come on. What are we doing here? Take a shot on Ryan Fitzpatrick. dude probably is ready to get a big payday to not get crushed every year because he's like always hurt. But that's what I would do if I was Houston. Ryan Fitzpatrick, lock it in.
And actually, to compound on that, I think I've now figured out. I know you need to have that one guy that is the new thing is the young offensive guru that is surprisingly handsome for a head coach. But I think if you just assemble a coaching staff of journeyman players primarily, because if you, between the amalgam of all of the coaches that you have at that point, will have likely played for all or most of the current coaches or current systems, and you just steal all of the shit from all of the other systems and teams and coaches and whatever. So no one can really surprise you unless they are actually innovative and create new things. But you just bank on the fact that they won't do that, or it'll take at least a season or two. And I don't know. I mean, that could be a thing.
Might just turn a corner here. NFL scouts, call us.
That's right. And I will say for the Saints, I kind of feel like I don't know that that's really the most attractive thing to go to right now. It kind of seems like, and just to put it in perspective of how bad of a situation this is. So there's 8 teams that have a negative cap going into 2022. I understand that they did their cap gymnastics last year and ended up getting under. That's not really impressive considering the season they had, but they are negative $74 million. That is the lowest or the worst. And the next closest is Green Bay with negative 40. Oof. So there's that cap. And then the remaining 6, there's a couple in double digits and the remainder in between 1 to 10 million negative, which again, that's probably one bad contract away from getting back into the black. So I have to think it's just going to be like Dennis Allen's the DC. I have to think it's just going to be an inside hire because no one else is going to want to come in and be like, I don't know who's going to play for us because I don't know who we can pay or who we can afford to extend or anything like that. Taysom Hill has a bizarre sounding contract that I don't know if you want to put him at quarterback, tight end, and running back. And no offense to Jameis Winston, but even with a healthy knee, I don't know if he's the guy. So as a Panthers fan, I'm excited to see if that is in fact a dumpster fire. I hope Tom Brady retires, all that kind of stuff. But what do you think about the Saints in terms of maybe their dynasty players or how that looks in that sense?
Yeah, that's kind of low key, like you said. It's low key like a really bad situation. And I'm gonna butcher this, so I'll try to stay like as concise as possible. But I listened to a podcast last summer. I'm trying to think of the guy's name, but it's the Business of Sports. And it's a guy he used to work for ESPN. He was the former Packers GM. And he talks about a lot of these financial implications in the NFL and essentially how he talked about this Saints situation and how they kept kicking the can down the road and that they've just been rolling all this money over because they basically I think front load signing bonuses and they sign these guys to these intense high dollar contracts. But then leave outs to where they can cut and take cap hits and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of like what you're touching on with the Taysom Hill situation. I think he's got some insane contract, but I mean, there's just not a lot of talent on that, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I understand Michael Thomas is who he is, but I think he's approaching 28, 29. Maybe even 30 years old without looking it up. I know for a fact he was on that 2014 national championship Ohio State team. So I mean that's 8 years ago. So you got to figure it's probably at least 28, probably 29. And then obviously you have Alvin Kamara, but as the proud owner of Marquez Callaway off of the trade with you, I mean he's been up and down. The rest of the wide receiver core has been pedestrian at best, and really, I think the fact that they had at least a mid-tier to upper-tier defense this year is the only reason that they were any good at all. So, sorry, my wife just got home, so really is on guard dog duty. But but yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Not necessarily a great situation for the Saints job right now.
Well, I will say, in summary, which is how every SAT essay should end with that final paragraph, is there any closing thoughts, whether it be Dynasty, whether it be a fatherhood thought or note that you want to end on?
I'm excited for how this offseason plays out with Dynasty. I know you and I have talked about possibly cooking up a couple trades. So I'm in an interesting spot where I feel like I might be in a little bit of limbo between rebuilding and also contending. But looking forward to that, and just looking forward to watch my daughter grow up a little bit. So
I love it. I'm excited to hear it too. I'm excited to eventually visit you guys, meet Emma Kay, and I know Millie will be glad to see me, I'm sure, if she remembers.
Absolutely.
But I'm excited to see this not brand new kitchen, only half new. And I greatly appreciate you coming on, and here's to probably 100 more appearances. So
Cheers.
Appreciate you, brother. Cheers.